necessarily have to say everything, right? But you can brief us on what you have learned so far. Anybody? Come on. We want to be interactive as usual, right? So I'll need people to contribute here, okay? It shouldn't be that you don't have anything at all. After all, I just posted some key points on the pages, right? That would help us to catch up with what we learned in the previous session. Can somebody tell us maybe a thing or two? You don't necessarily have to see everything, okay? Maybe a definition or something you took. Anyone? Or I should mention names. Okay. Nobody is wrong in this session, right? So you just give a contribution and then it will be well noted, right? So that I would also know in a sense that we are all following. Am I being heard? Is the microphone on at all? I think I'm being heard, but I don't know if I'm being heard on the other side. Hello? Can somebody help us, please? Okay. Mr. Antereba, can you help us with what you picked from the previous lesson? Any key definition that you have come across in the slides? All right. So I think this is taking our time. Okay, so let me just begin, okay? It looks like we are all here for the tutorials.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Your question again.
Any key things that you may have learned, any summary, what you may have learned from the previous session, from session 1. A definition or a theory or something that you may have learned.
So I learned management. Management as a processing.
Okay. So what did you learn with regards to that, if I may ask, or anything else that you have learned?
I also learned objectives of management and importance of management.
So what do you think are some of the importance that management or knowing management could help an organization or an institution? Can you help us from your mind? Knowing the meaning or the explanation or definition of management, how can it be of help to an institution?
Okay, so management need to help various groups to achieve maybe the company goals or targets, the goals or targets of a company. So management need to help groups to achieve goals or targets of a company.
Powerful. So management helps groups or organization achieve their set goals, right?
Yes.
Powerful. That's a powerful contribution. Any other thing that someone else may have learned from session 1? Any contribution? You see, this one is very, very important. This session that we are having here is very, very important. It's part of what we need to know today, okay?
Okay, so I think management to also maybe they provide resources, or maybe they allocate resources for groups so that I don't know you understand.
I understand, sir.
Yes, they allocate resources, things to put things in place that will help each organization to promote the company.
Awesome, awesome. That's a powerful point, right? They allocate, and I love the word you use. You see, each course has its own terms that when you use, is either it shows your depth, right, in that field, or it's that to attract marks, right? And so
Yes,
you want to be able to use these terms as and when needed, right, in the exam. And I applaud you for the usage or the awareness of these things. Very keep it up, sir. Keep it up. Powerful contribution. Can someone else help us with what they may have learned, right? Um, no answer is wrong, as I always say. All right. Anybody else? Let me mention names. Okay. If you move and come back, I'll still mention your name. All right. So can someone help us? Anybody else? Mr. Champon, what do you think uh, the importance of your business, like the management of your business, having management for your business? What do you think uh, it will bring to your business, knowing the things you knew or you now know from session one? Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir? I think everybody's mic
Yeah,
is.
please, Chief, you are talking to me, Joshua.
Yes, sir. Mr. Champon. Yes, sir.
All right, sir.
Yes, I'm asking what you may have learned from the first session, right? We are trying to do a recap
Okay.
based on what we picked individually or what the general understanding of what you may have gotten from session one. So I'm
Okay.
asking you got something from it, if you could share with us some few things you may have
Oh
picked up.
yeah, I've picked up a lot of things from it in terms of management in the aspect of my business and other things. I read that management helps business to grow and what thrive, and I think is the main practice that makes business to grow and to thrive. Any business that doesn't have strong management, the business cannot expand or cannot grow or cannot thrive in any way.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. That means that um, it is management that holds the business together, right? For
Yes,
it
please.
to move forward, right? Or in terms of their directions, right? The path
Yes,
that they.
please.
Okay, okay, that's a powerful contribution there. That's a powerful contribution. Thank you so much, sir. Anybody else with any contribution, or I should still mention names? By this time, some people are praying that they will not be called. Madam Teria, can you tell us something about what you may have picked from the other session? Madam Dendelab. Mr. Champo, you may mute yourself. Okay. All right. I think her network is a bit unstable, and so when she comes, we would try and see. All right. Okay. So let's move on to today's activity, right? Today we are going to look at session 2. We are going to look at evolution of management theory, right? All right. So it is very important to note that management plays a key role in whatever business we may be engaged in. Okay, whatever institution, organization, right? If there is no management, then the business or the institution or whatever organization, right, it is bound to fail. Actually, management has been in existence for so many years, but it is only recently, right, according to our slides here, in 1990s, right? In the 90s, that's when it began to be systematically arranged for it to be studied. So that means that in previous years, it was based on experience, right? Management wasn't something that was really studied, right? It was something that was mainly seen as, let's say, a mere talent or something that is gained through experience or even intuition from your mind, right? And so this is how you realize that in the first session, we're talking about management as an art, right? And then we came to management as a science. So basically, you would realize that, so if it wasn't studied, it was basically, in a sense, right, an art before it was now studied, right, as a science. That means that um, it now had a structure that we or standardized, because if you leave it for everybody to use their own experience, right, as it was being done before the 90s, right, everybody will have their own theories. And so you realize that even up to date, there are a lot of theories, so many people's theories, right, on management, right? So it would take a certain level of consistent experimentation, observation, right, and all the scientific processes for it to be deemed scientific. And so for people to begin to start studying, like for it to develop theories, because when you begin to observe things, right, experiment on things, you begin to observe them, and now at a point you begin to develop theories. Basically it has become a science at that point, right? And so people begin to study it, right? It begins to be standardized based on those theories, right? If they are accepted, and then they are now learned. So you can see the striking difference um, between management as a science and as an art, right? So this in this session, we are, as I said, going to talk about management, right? Principles of management, evolution of management theory, how it came about. So you've noticed that in my presentation, I'm trying to give a brief history on how it all started, right? So the systematic study of management did not begin in earnest, right, until after 1990. Information overload. So there was an information overload during or before that time, right, where management didn't have any systematic recorded body of knowledge until that time. You get it? So as I was saying, everybody will begin to, because if it's based on theories or based on experience, your experience in your company might be different from mine. The way I would manage my company, if it's based on experience, may be different. Maybe my workers may be a bit some way, right, when it comes to being motivated, and I have my own way of getting them along to work, right, towards a common goal, right? You might have a different approach to your people, and it might work in a different sense, right? Also in a different geographical area. You get it? And all these people may seem to make sense, right? And so all these theories or hypotheses, right, that they may be working with, right, may be a lot. There may be a lot, not just only the two of them, but a lot. Everybody with their different experiences, right? And so there was quite an information overload when you say you want to study or go into management. You get it? There was a lot of information available then that you wouldn't know which one to pinpoint. So you realize that with this, there was a need for it to convert into science, right? Because before something becomes a science, it is critically studied, experimented, and done what? And then theories are now made based on the observation and the experimentation. Then now we have one system or a particular group of systems that will be standardized worldwide for people to now focus or streamline their studies on, right? And so this is the meaning of information overload during that time. Today, vast amounts of relevant information are readily available in print and electronic media, right? Yes. So with the advent of social media, the internet, artificial intelligence, and so on, we have access to a lot of info on management still, right? Even though we have management as a science, the management as an art still persists, right? And people explore different philosophies on how to adapt particular management systems to work for themselves, right? So we also have an interdisciplinary field. So management is an interdisciplinary field because each industry or organization that you may find yourself, you realize that management is very, very important, right? Whether you are in an NGO, right? Whether you are in a church, whether you are in a business, or even school, right? You realize that management is very, very important. So it cuts across whatever field or whatever profession you are doing, in the sense that, as I mentioned, church and so on. Whether you are also into academia, psychology, mathematics, economics, history, and so on, you see that management is also needed to handle a lot of things, right, in those areas. And so we say the manifold increase in management theory information is due largely to its interdisciplinary nature in drawing from several fields. So because management is now holding a lot of information, right? A lot of people now have their own theories and so on. You realize that either each of them applies to specific fields, or they may apply to different fields. So when you pick a theory of someone who have intentionally or how do you call it? Intentionally studied a particular system of management, right? You would realize that maybe that theory may be applicable to a group of people, right? And you realize that you need another theory from a different person, right? That would suit a different set of groups of people. Then you could have a theory that will work for all groups of people. Do you see? So this one works, this one works. So now you'll be left to now choose the kind of system that would actually be more effective, right? in whatever circumstance you find yourself. So in the management field, there are a lot of information that is available, and this cuts across different disciplines. And this is one of the things that we really need to look at in this throughout this course. Okay. All right. And so, without much ado, let's look at the background of management, right? So, ancient management, right? Before management became a science, right? Officially, in Egypt, right? Egypt pyramids and China Great Wall, Venetians floating warships, assembly lines, right? Adam Smith says he published what? Wealth of Nations, right? 1776. Okay, advocated the division of labor, job specialization to increase the productivity of workers. So what we are trying to say here is that in the building of the pyramids, if there wasn't any management system, right, that was helping to coordinate the people, you would realize that they wouldn't have achieved what they had achieved. You get it? So in some histories, they say even there was divisional leaders who were in charge of specific units of carrying the bricks, right? The blocks or the bricks for the pyramids. And there were people who were in charge of the rolling of the bricks, even to the end of the place that it would be mounted, right? And so you would see that if there is no proper organization or management, right, you wouldn't be able to lift up such structures. And the same thing with the Great Wall of China. It had to do, but all these people were using their experience, their intuition, right? So obviously it was management as an art, right, during those periods. But you see, one thing I would say is that even though it was officially, right, um, it officially began to be science from 1990, it could also be science in ancient times because they may, if the moment you begin to use scientific process to do something, the thing now becomes a science, right? So until we confirm exactly the processes they use in the management systems they were applying to build these structures, we can't say for a fact, right, that they were they were applying this or that, right? For now, everything is a myth or based on small piece of evidence, right? Based on archaeological proofs. You get it? And we also have Wealth of Nations, right? Adam Smith, where he was talking about different economies and so on, right? The economics, Adam Smith, the father of economics, one of the fathers, okay, and where he's talking about the economics of different countries. You get it? So you realize that even in session one, we were talking about how economics and management are interrelated, right? So we're merging some of the factors of even production with the various resources management may need to execute various plans, right, and set goals. And so management, these are all proving that management in a way has been in existence, right, before it began to be studied. So even through the Industrial Revolution, so we started off by ancient times, right, and we came to the late 1770s, right, and now to the Industrial Revolution, where humans were transitioning from human labor to machine labor, right? During those times when machine were picking up, right, a lot. everything began to be automated in a way, right? And so during these seasons, management itself was being applied in various capacities. So substituted machine power for human labor, created large organizations in need of management. So you see that as more and more people were needed to man these machines, new how do you call it, new positions needed to be created, right? New professions. So now if you were using horses to do things, now you would need machines to do it. And so apart from it creating new professions, you see that you will need new system to manage these new professions. And so people's mind began to come on the whole thing on management, right? Handling these things, coordinating it, and making the most use of the resources that organizations were having, right? Powerful. So this is the brief history from where it started from. So let's look at the development of major management theories, right? So in course of time, or the major ones that we have so far, we are going to talk about them in this diagram here. If you can't hear me at each point, because I'm displaying on the screen, you can unmute and then draw my attention to it. Okay. All right. So okay, so we have some of the management theories. We have the historical backgrounds where which it came before it came to the scientific management. And then when we got the scientific management, we had general administrative theory. So you realize that when you are dealing with science, I mentioned that you have to do your research, right? And then you do your experimentation based on your research, right? Which involves your analysis and so on, right? Then you come out with your evaluation, which is your theories, right? So when you come out with it, right, this is what people begin to use. And so from its being scientific, apart from the historical background, you see that it transcended into being scientific. And then from science, you now have the theories from the scientific systems that were given, right? So among these theories, you would have the quantitative approach to handling things. So you see that I'm moving from the left to the right, right? You have the quantitative approach, you have the organizational behavior, you have the systems approach. So whether you have to do with the quantity of things, right? How the population of things, managing the population of things, right? Or managing people's behavior. You get what they are trying to say here, right? Managing people's behavior, or is it systems we are talking about here? You get it? Or the contingency approach where you want to predict of the future, but you don't have enough evidence, and yet you still have some forecast, right? So each department that was created as a result of the scientific approach is what we have here at the top there. But anything under the historical, before or under the historical background, would be the early examples of management, which really may not, for the purposes of our slides, didn't follow the scientific. And so this is why you don't see it as part of the later this thing, how do you call it, theories. Okay, and so those ones are just needed. We just refer to them as and when we need them, right? So under the organizational behavior, right, we have early advocates, we have the Hawthorne studies, and we are going to go into these things, right? So management as a science there is a need for us to know all these, right? I wish I could select these so that we know. So general administrative theories, quantitative approach, we need to know all these things in the process of learning management as a science, right? And so this is what we are going to delve in the coming sessions, right? All right. So we are going to look at the major approaches of management. We are going to take them one by one, as I've said, right? The scientific management, general administrative theory, quantitative management, organizational behavior, systems approach, contingency approach, right? And so let's begin with the scientific management. So with the scientific management, you see, since we have now talked about the origin, where it came from, and so on, I mentioned that it will be individuals who will begin the whole thing, right? So there was this man called Frederick Winslow, right, Taylor, and the father. He is the father of scientific management. Okay, put it in your mind. Scientific what management. So Frederick Winslow. Okay, let's make it practical as usual. Let's go and look for who he is, and then I think my keyboard. Okay. So, Frederick Winslow, the father of scientific management, right? He published Principles of Scientific Management. That means that for him to print or publish it, he may have dedicated some time studying the whole thing, right? Scientifically, watching it from a scientific angle. And when I mention scientific angle, I think if I repeat it this time, it will be the fourth time, right? The scientific approach, the experimentation again, right? Experimentation process, and then coming out with your theories, right? After you do your investigation and so on. So he did all those things and then published a book called Principles of Scientific Management, right? So now we were moving from the art, from the history of using mind or talent, or let's say raw talent, right? Or anything intuitive, right? That means using your mind to do things, to a more systematic approach. And he was the first person that was recorded to have come out with. And he did that in the year 1911, right? I'm trying for us. Okay, I think my keyboard is working now. So let's look at, so as I was talking about science, you see that science at all, it is a systematic study of the structure and behavior of physical and natural world through what observation, what experimentation, and then the testing of theories against the evidence obtained. And this is what Mr. Frederick Winslow Taylor, who we are going to watch this thing very, very soon. Frederick Winslow Taylor, there he is. You look at his image, there he is, very serious man. I don't think he has ever laughed in his life. Anyways, very serious man. Anyway, so this is the father of scientific management, right? Management, when talks about management, because nobody can come and say that I'm the father of management as an art, because everybody with that will have a lot of people, right? So when it comes to management as a science, there he is, Mr. Frederick Winslow Taylor. Okay, he was born in March 20th, 1856. Just a brief history about him, as you are still watching his picture, right? Was an American mechanical engineer, right? He was widely known for his method. So I want you to notice something. You see, even as a mechanical engineer, this man was still interested in management, because remember that management transcends all disciplines. So those of our colleagues who are wondering why is this thing important as a computer scientist or as a DSC IT student, right? This is one of the inspirations to pick from, right? He was widely known for his methods to improve industry efficiency, right? He was one of the first management consultants and so on. So you can see that he had a drive to make sure that things are put to the right use and the right things are gotten from the very things, right, that are put to use. So if you have some small resources, you want to make the most out of it. So he was concerned. You see, you can see that he was a mechanical engineer. Perhaps he was having his own companies. If we go and read about him, we'll get the full biography of Mr. Fred Winslow Taylor, right? Powerful. So his theory, after he published the book, The Theory of Scientific Management, right? The Principles of Scientific Management. So in his theories, he outlined some few things that we are going to talk about. So using scientific methods to define one best way for a job to be done, right? So when we say management being scientific, that means that you are using one system or one best way for something to be done, right? Putting the right person on the job with the correct tools and equipment, having a standardized method of doing the job, providing an economic incentive to the worker. So these are some of the things that Mr. Frederick Winslow, right, Taylor, he outlined in his findings, right, in the book. We have just summarized some of them, right? So maybe I'll try and get the book and share so that we have some small idea on it going forward, okay? I'll share on the various platforms so that we can have access to his findings, right? I repeat, he said putting the right person on the job. So because he wanted things to be done efficiently, right? Getting the most out of the smallest thing he had, because it is painful when you are a business owner or a CEO or you have a business and you have some few workers and you keep pumping the money in and you are not reaping the full benefit or you are running at a loss, right? But you keep pumping in the necessary resources needed for that particular work. You realize that putting the right person on the job could help correct these things, right? So he came out that when you put the right person on the job and you give him the correct tools and equipment, right, it will help you to sufficiently do the job and get the most out of it. And then he also added that when you have a standardized method of doing the job, right? So also providing an economic incentive to the worker would also help boost their morale to do a lot. Maybe they can, if you have given them 50 units to produce a day, maybe the incentive that you give them can make them produce 80. Who knows? Nobody knows. Only God knows. All right. So this are some of the things that he outlined in his book, right, or in his findings. So developing performance standards on the basis of systematic observations and experimentation. So he's talking about management as a science. So management as a science involves developing performance standards on the basis of what? Systematic observation and experimentation. We are talking about management what? As a science. So management as a science may involve the standardization of work. So everything that he outlined in his listing is what is being elaborated in powerful English, right? So don't worry, a lot of the things in these slides are repetitive. Do you get it? It's just that they come out in different ways. So as and when they repeat, I will identify it so that you'll be able to know. Okay. So you realize that the course itself is a very easy one. Okay. So standardization of work practices and methods. So over here, you realize that in Mr. Frederick Winslow, right? Winslow Taylor, he said what? Having a standardized method of doing the job. And you are also seeing over here in this point, standardization of work practices. So they're just putting it in better words, right? For us to understand. And you also have time and task study of workers' efforts to maximize what? To maximize productivity and output. So as the incentive was doing the job, you realize that there is also time, managing time. You see, time is the most expensive commodity, right, out there, because you can have all the money, and yet if you have 0.1 seconds to live or to do something, you will not be able to do the thing. And so you see that time is the basic unit of everything management. You get it? And that is my theory that I'm coming out. I hope we establish some copyright acts on it, right, going forward. Because you realize that if you look at it, it's not the tools, it's not what you have or the resources, right? Time is of the essence in executing every little thing in management, right? And so this is what is being outlined in the second point here, right? Time and tasks, right? Study of workers' efforts. So in as much as they are apportioned that time or frame to do something, you are also making sure that that time frame, you have given them the right sort of work to do that they will be able to elapse or finish that work in time, right? You don't say that, oh, we don't have time, and yet the work, that load that they are carrying, it's supposed to be done beyond that time that is given. So apportioning the time and then the particular task, right, of concern, so that they are able to maximize the efforts, right, within that specific time. Okay. There is also systematic selection and training of workers to increase efficiency and productivity, right? When you train your workers and you enlighten them on the type of things you do in the company, right? There's a point that even beyond what you know, you must strive for them to also be equipped. This is when companies want to know that, oh, this is when they begin to ask you questions. If you will leave the company in the next 4 years, if you will be with them in the next 10 years, they want to know. Maybe they want to invest in you so that you give back to the company based on the knowledge you gain in that field. And so try and learn a lot about the field that you find yourself. This is a side tip, right? Whatever field you are working in, try and get more knowledge in that field. Okay, by doing that, you position yourself for more higher roles and positions that would later yield, right? Would also yield, right? So it's very, very important training of workers, right? A systematic selection too as well. You are careful who you upgrade, right? Awesome. So differential pay incentives based on established work standards, right? So there must be a certain level of incentives that will be apportioned or allocated to certain work standards if your workers are able to meet them. So if they are able to meet, let's say you tell them they are supposed to produce, let's say 50, as I was saying earlier, right? And they are able to produce their 80. As they have reached your goal, you should be able to also do something on the incentive wise, right? To be able to make sure that you create that loop where it will be a continuous thing. You get it? You are achieving your goal as management, right? But they are also earning as workers, okay, by meeting your established working standards. Okay, this is what this point is talking about. So Taylor's 4 principles of management. So these are the principles that he came out with. Because it's a science, he must come out with his own theories, his own principles that we would probably have to follow. You get it? So the first one is what? Develop a science for each element of an individual's work, which will replace the old rule of thumb method, right? And then number 2, scientifically select and then train, teach, and develop the worker. You get it? Heartily cooperate. I'm going to explain all of these. Heartily cooperate with the workers so as to ensure that all work is done in accordance with the principles of the science that has been developed. Number 4, divide work and responsibility almost equally between management and workers. Management takes over all work for which it is better fitted than the workers. So number 1, you should develop a way, right, or a structure, right, for each worker that you have, right? The way they should be able to do things, right? You develop a structure that this is what I expect of you based on what you have done or you have experienced or experimented. So you outline these things to the worker that, look, this is what I expect, this and that and that and that and that. So they when they start, it's not as if they are using only their experience from the past, but also developing a science, developing a way that how do you call it? Sorry, I was just distracted by the call. You develop a structure for them to follow, for them to work, instead of just using their own experience from the past. It's good to apply the experience. There are times that experience is needed, right? Experience is needed to execute certain things at work. Okay, trust me, there are a lot of times that you will need, you see that these laid down principles, because you come to realize that sometimes these laid down principles are so rigid, you need a level of creativity to be free, right, and to adapt. Okay, all right. And you learn that it's not all scientific theories, right, are not entirely true all the time. You get it? They are not the truth in finality, as we may have learned in other courses, right? So there comes a time where you need to blend these with experience, but then there must be a laid down structure, and this is what the point number 1 is talking about, right? And number 2 is what? Scientifically select and then train, teach, and develop the worker, right? Scientifically select and then train, teach, and develop the worker, as we've talked about. You must also look at the value addition of not just your product or your services that you are rendering as a company, as an organization, right? What you are doing, adding more value to what you are doing, but the people that you have that create this product or that help you deliver this product or services, render them, you must also be involved in their value addition as well, because in their value addition, the product, they tend to affect the products or the services that you have as well. You see, if you don't properly train your workers when it comes to factory wise and all those things, right? Especially when it comes to hygiene or the do's and don'ts of things. When you are producing something that goes inside people, I mean, things that people eat, they may try to do, if they don't have the background, they may do things haphazardly, right? And it may end up coming to affect the company itself in the long. This is just one incident, right? The same way, if it's not affecting the product, it may come to affect they themselves. If you are having to do with very sensitive or very dangerous environments like creation of steel or smashing of metals and things, if they are not properly trained, they can hurt themselves going forward. If they don't know these safety precautions, they are not trained on these things, right? So there must be selected forums or scientifically to train, to teach, and develop the workers, right? And number three is what? Heartily cooperate with the workers who has to ensure that all work is done in accordance with the principles of the science that has been developed. So all these things are still in Taylor's principles that he said that for you to be able to apply these principles, the one I have done, you must go through this. So the third one is what? Cooperating with them, right? Cooperating with them, that after you give them the instructions, you are cooperating with them to ensure that these things are done. This is also one of the roles of a manager, that after the instruction, they are also following up to see how they are following the standard that have been set, right? And then number four is what? Divide responsibilities, right? You decentralize, right? Almost equally between management and workers. So you don't give more role of someone in a higher position to someone in a smaller position, right? So in the previous sessions, we spoke of the line managers, right? We spoke of the can someone help us? The levels of management. Can someone remind us? I want to see. Can someone help us with the levels of management? Or let's do this quickly and move on very fast. Anybody? I think I even made a mistake. I mentioned one or two or so. Can someone help us? Oh, at least mention one or two, and let's move. Another person mentions some, and then we go. Okay, let's make it like
top managers.
We have the top managers. Who contributed? We have the top
Joshua.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Joshua. Very powerful contribution.
We have the low level.
We have middle level.
Middle level. That's awesome. So you don't, basically, what they are saying is that you don't give the work of a top management to a low level management personnel, right? And so the work must be shared equal. If you've employed a person that come and do a low level management role, you have to stick to it and make sure that the person is doing what you have employed him to do, the various roles that the person has been employed for, and not more than that. And you pay the person some small money. You see, which our people do, right? A lot of people don't follow these principles. So these are the four basic principles that Sir Frederick Winslow Taylor, right, outlined. So the first is what? Develop a science for the individual's work. Number two is what? Scientifically select and train your worker or your workers, right? So you develop, you train them, you see, and then you cooperate with them. So after you develop and you train them, now you cooperate with them when they are doing the work. And then the fourth one is what? You apportion the work well, so that the top management, the middle level management, they will have equal work, and nobody will go and do more than what they are supposed to do. So these are the four principles. This is what management must ensure, right? Company owners, institution, shareholders, and so on must ensure when they are applying, say, Taylor's or Mr. What's his name again? Frederick Winslow Taylor, right? His principles. I'm intentionally mentioning the names a lot so that it will stick, because we'll come to a lot of names, right? We'll come to have a lot of names, and sometimes it may seem cumbersome, right? And so I'm trying to do this so that we may remember. Remember that the mind also works by what? Repetition, in as much as it also works with association, right? So Frank, yeah, so it's because of the association. That's why I've been trying to show their pictures, try to relate.
Sir, please, I have a question.
You can mute yourself if it's on. Yes, sir. You have a question, sir.
Yeah, I just want to know the old rule of thumbs or something like that. The method. I just
The old rule.
know
The old rule.
the meaning of that word.
Which one?
The old under the scientific management.
To the
first point. Under the first point, there's a word called.
So let's look at it together, okay? Let's look at it. So when we say old rule, it's a figure of speech, okay? Let me create here. Okay, so basically, where you just look at your thumb and just bring up any theories. You get it? But let's look at it, okay? Let's look at it. So let's look at it. Okay, so in management, just a sec. Not interested. Not interested. Okay. It's now using this system for us. Okay, so the decision making based on informal practical experience rather than scientific. Please, do you get it? In management, it refers to decision making based on what? Informal practical experience rather than what? On scientific or systematic study. Do you get it? So as I was saying, in the past, they were just using their mind. Anybody will come up with any theories, right? Okay, so basically from your experience, okay, and I mentioned intuition, right, as well, right, and what people may have seen. So you don't base your decision based on these ones. So this is just a figure of speech that was highlighting the old way of going about it, right, and before it became scientific. All right, are we clear, sir? Should I move on? Hello, sir. Do you get it now, sir?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. All right. So kindly mute yourself as you are joining. All right. So apart from Sir Frederick, right? Let me just zoom in on this. So apart from Sir Frederick, we have a couple of others, right? His followers and so on, right? Who later came on with maybe a refined touch to his theories, his four theories, right? So we have one called Frank and Lillian Gilbreth. Frank and Lillian Gilbreth. So let's look for them. Frank and Lillian, right? Lillian Gilbreth. All right, let's try and get a hold of them. I normally love the Wikipedia versions of these. All right, so yes. So basically, Mr. Frank was an engineer. You can see over here. So you see that All these people, they are having science background. Have you noticed? Science background. You see, so this is why when someone wants to leave a science related course and going to do an art related one, especially when they have done some few sessions into the science, right? We try to discourage because it is not easy to actually go through these scientific courses, right? And so when you're able to start, you should maintain the momentum and try and finish. And then you could now add some few art courses to it that would better expand your horizon on the way that you see things, right? With regards to that field. Okay, so it's very, very important, right? So Frank Banker Gilbert, right, or Frank Gilbert, right, was an American engineer consultant. It's not necessary to know about all this, okay? But I'm showing you all these things. If I just mention Frank Gilbert and then we move on, you are likely to forget. You get it? I've seen that someone is asking a question. This is why I'm addressing it. You are likely to forget. So I'm creating these instances in your mind where you remember, okay, this man, at least you can associate. Remember, the brain works by association. So as you are seeing his picture, right, you now associate his name to his picture. So everything I'm doing here is deliberate. Where you ask something, I'll let us check it together instead of saying it at once, or we'll do something together. Do you get it? These are all creating events. Do you get it? So I would also say that I'm using a scientific approach. Anyways, so it's just to create something in our mind's eye to recollect things in the shortest possible time, right? Great. So this is Frank Banker Gilbert, so, right? So there is also Lillian. So Lillian may be mentioned later on, right? Lillian Gilbert, together with him, Lillian Moller Gilbert. So you can see she's an engineer and also a psychologist, right? So you can see, say, Lillian Evelyn Gilbert, right, was an American psychologist, industrial engineer, consultant, and educator, right, who was an early pioneer in applying psychology, blah, 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 and to time and motion. So you see that these people were not just coming from any backgrounds and say that, oh, me too, I've done my scientific analysis or something. These are well endowed people. So for her to come and say that, oh, I've studied the behavior of workers and I know that this is what to encourage, this is what to discourage them, it will likely be accepted worldwide. You get it? So it's very, very important to notice these names and their backgrounds as well. Okay. So let's go back to the slides to look at some of this. So you see, so Frank and Lillian Gilbert later, who were the followers of the first man, who is Mr. Frederick Winslow Taylor, right? These were his followers. In those days, they used to use this system of apprenticeship, right? Before later the school thing became standardized, where everybody could now go to school because school was meant for the rich people only. You get it? A few people. So these apprenticeship things and stuff. So after you go and study something for a while, you go and understand the professionals or the people who have been in the field. You follow them for years, you see, and you build capacity before you can also come out and have followers under you. And so these were the followers of Sir Frederick Winslow Taylor, right? Frank and Lillian Gilbert. They refined the 4 principles that their boss did and fine-tuned it, right? They refined it and refined time and motion study methods for use in work simplification, right? So the theory that had to do with time, right? And the work, you see, let's look at it here. The theory that had to do with time is somewhere here, right? Yes. So heartily cooperate with them, right? To where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There was yes. So you heartily cooperate with the workers so as to ensure that all work is done in accordance, right? In accordance with the science that has been developed. So in matters that has to do with achieving things on time, right? Achieving the set goals, right? Obviously. So they had to rather fine tune and say, Charlie, these, as I was saying, that time is of the essence, right? But they were talking about time and motion, right? And we are going to look at those ones as well. Henry L. Gantt, or Henry L. Gantt, was also one of the followers of Sir Taylor, right? So his refining, right, or his fine tuning of the principles were basically three. Unlike Frank and Lillian Gilbert, theirs was one. They refined time and motion study methods for use in work simplification. And then Henry L. Grant, he sat down and said, no, he decided to refine production control. What will come out, right? After we do all these four things, what will come out? There must be a control of the output. And then we must have control of the cost. You see, the cost control techniques, what we can do to maintain how we spend before the production comes out, so that we can maximize on producing a lot, right? And spending little. You see that, and so his focus was on that. And also, number two, he developed the Gantt chart for work scheduling of projects. So based on the four principles, he decided to go deeper in developing a chart for the work scheduling, because you realize that number four principle says what? Work responsibility almost equally between management and workers. So he developed a way to schedule the work, the project, so that each one would be done at the right time, right? So that they can accomplish it in a specific period, especially those of us in construction. You see that sometimes people will come and they say that, no, if we do things like this and like that, within 30 minutes, we'll finish building, or within 1 year, we'll finish. And this is how they use to extrapolate or come to like a conclusion in telling their clients, which may be you and I, who is building or who are involved in building, right? They'll be able to tell you in time. So Henry L. Gantt developed something we call the Gantt chart. So it's based on his surname, right? And his surname is Gantt, right? Gantt, the Gantt chart of work scheduling of projects, right? So he came to fine tune it. This was the second one he identified. And then the third thing that Henry L. Gantt, right, identified was early advocate of the importance of the human factor. He said that as for him, the human factor is very, very important. You see, after he studied his boss's work, he said that the human factor of producing the whole thing and making the thing come out, you shouldn't ignore it. And the importance of customer service. So you are working with human beings who are your workers, and you are also working with human beings when it comes to the things that you are dealing in. If it is service you are rendering, your customers, they are also human. You need to factor them. They are important in bringing overall profit or overall benefit for the company. All right. These are very important things that he further outlined in the principles, right? So let's take notice. Frank and Lillian Gilbert, they refined the time and motion study methods for use in work simplification, right? So Henry later came and said that, look, we need a refined production control and cost control techniques in order to maximize our benefits, right, or our profits. And he came and said again, he added that I have a chart that I've a theory that I've made, right? It's a chart. And with it, we can use it to do the work scheduling of our workers for the projects, right, that we have. And so this was the second thing he brought out. And the third thing that Henry L. Gant, that he brought out, was the early advocate of the importance of human factor, that we can't do all these things without involving human beings. You get it? There's a need to acknowledge the importance, because if you just treat them as machines, right? You come, you get your money at the end of the day, you go your way. It will not help us in any way, right? We also need to factor our customers, not just the workers, okay? So that we can maintain, because if we satisfy our workers, they do what they have to do. There's after sales service. When they come, what do we do after that? We need to communicate with our customers well, and also bear in mind these very things. They are very, very important. Okay, so these are the people who were following Mr. Frederick Winslow Taylor. You see the way I keep mentioning his name, their boss, right? And then you come back to Frank and Lillian Gilbert, right? Focused on increasing worker productivity through the reduction of wasted motion. So everything that we are doing should yield a result. We shouldn't do any work in vain. Anything should be focused on increasing what we are supposed to. So if we are supposed to produce 5 tins of milk in a day, let's try and produce that 5 tins of milk, or even more than that. And this was brought up by Frank and Lillian Gilbert. It says focused on increasing worker productivity through the reduction of wasted motion. So if we are doing we are rolling the machine 5 times to produce, or we are buying, let me use petrol. We are using petrol, right, a generator to produce the goose, let's say 5 tins of milk, right? We shouldn't end up spending like 10 cedis on the fuel for the same 5 tins of milk. You see, we are wasting resources. You get it? So there should be a way that we can manage it and then produce. And this is what the first here, the point here is also talking about. Okay. We also have developed the micronometer to time worker motions and optimize work performance. So the unit or the system that will measure workers' output. Okay, so let's look at it. Workers' output and so on. Okay, let's look at it here together. Seems like a big word to many of us, right? So let's look at it. Management, right? Management. Got it together, right? And this also helps us in our extensive studies, right? You can see the reference to Sir Frederick Taylor, right? Developing the micronometer to time worker motions was a key part of the scientific management theory focused on increasing worker productivity by eliminating inefficient movements and standardizing work processes. So you help us, it helps us to focus on what will bring us more yield rather than what will make us waste our time. You get it? So eliminating that factor of wastage is what this whole thing. So is basically measuring, having a system to measure what the person has done against what the person has produced. You get it? So if you have a way to measure that, then you know that if the person does this, you should be expecting that. You get it? If the person does this too, you should be expecting that, because it's also all about what results in the company or organization that you may find yourself. So these things are necessary to know as a manager, so that you'll be able to measure the unit of your output against the unit of your production. All right. Okay, so how do today's managers use scientific management? So now that we've looked at all these theories from Sir Frederick Winslow Taylor and his apprentices or followers, right? As we will say in modern language, right? Including Frank and Lillian Gilbert. So for now, we will combine their names. We don't necessarily need to know their full names, right? That was just for us to know. I'm talking about Frank and Lillian Gilbert here, all right? So because the slides provided Frank and Lillian Gilbert, we just need to stay with it, okay? Any other thing was just to get us to be involved in who they were, how, what they were involved in, and so on. But Mr. Frederick Winslow Taylor's full name, you may need to remember that one, because it would be in the questions, right? Before the next sessions, we'll have a 40 questionnaire, right? 40 objective question MCQs, where we'll be answering some of these things. So from session 1, 2, and maybe 3, we'll be answering some 40 questions, right? In session, maybe some 40 minutes, and then we'll come back and then continue the class, right? Going to be fun. The results will be produced instantly, right, after attempting the questions. So it's very important to be following along, okay? All right. So how do today's managers use scientific management? So in today's world, right, these people were in the olden days, right? Things are changing, times are changing, new fields are popping up, new strategies need to pop up. So how are we adapting to these methods? In these days, how do we adjust to scientific? This is why even scientific theories are not the entire truth all the time, because you need over time to update your theories. It's not like mathematical or in critical thinking and logical reasoning. We were talking about what logical truth and empirical. Is it what? I've forgotten about them. Can someone help us? Where we talked about the one that's based on facts, and the other one that are based on not just on facts, but also logic. Okay, all right, so let's move on. Okay, so over time, how do we now apply these things, these scientific management rules, theories, and so on? So when it comes to the use of time and motion studies to increase productivity, right? When it comes to hiring the best qualified employees, right? We are going to talk about these things, right? Designing incentive systems based on output. So basically what we are talking about is developing these or utilizing these in these times where you can have systems that will measure time, right? We have systems that measure employee working period. In some companies, you can have these thumbprint check-in, right? Where you go and then you check in and then it starts taking the time that you reported. So it's known that, okay, so if you reported this time where work hours start, they know that, okay, from these hours to these hours is what you have worked. And so they use it to expect or measure what they should expect from you as an output, right? So in this modern world, these are some of the ways that we can use to measure time and motion, right? of increasing productivity of workers, right? Number two is the another way of using scientific ways of management is employing scientific ways of recruiting employees, right? So is it based on research? Is it based on, are you employing the people based on your intuition, by your experience only, or you are just employing people based on the facts or what they have been able to accomplish? Because remember that science has to do with facts. Do you get it? So even in your recruitment, you need to make sure that you are deploying these strategies on recruiting people, and you need to pay attention to these things. Otherwise, you may recruit the wrong people in the wrong positions, right? Or you may employ the right people in the wrong positions. You get it? So this is another way of scientifically using scientific management systems, or applying or deploying them at their various works, or implementing them, right? Having a designed way of an incentive scheme for your people is also a scientific way of trying to maintain a certain level of management systems at your workplace. Okay. All right. So in today's world, these are some of the things that qualifies us to be scientifically managerial in these roles, right? Right. We also have a dedication to finding a better way, right? A dedication to finding better ways to things. So you see that I told you that science is not the overall truth, because it keeps updating itself. You see, because times are changing, fields are coming up, and so on. So what science that is that it continues to update, it feeds itself with information and updates, come up with new theories. New theories are coming up on the same thing that we may have learned over the years, right? So a dedication to finding a better way. So you see that even when Mr. Frederick Whistler Taylor brought up his principles, you saw that over time his followers also brought up new or redefined strategies, right, on expatiating what he had said. And this is what would continue to happen over time, because at that time the theories were based on the tools, the systems available, the various fields, the techniques, the labor force, the geographical area. You see, so as time goes on, it makes sense to naturally adapt to the systems that are changing. And this is what science involves in, and this is what it's talking about in this point. Okay, using scientific management doesn't dehumanize workers. So the fact that you are using scientific systems doesn't mean that we don't factor the human, right? The human who is working for you, right? You don't think about their well-being. Do you see? Because science would say that you do this, you expect that. You do this, you expect that. You do this, you expect that. You see, at a point, your workers may even feel like you don't really care about them, right? Or you are trying to sideline them, right? In a bid to try to automate. When I say automate, I'm trying to say where you want to make things mechanized in the form of using machines and things, right? You try to rather involve them. So science is trying to say that science doesn't mean that you are just ignoring these things, right? But rather it's rather being used to involve them. Okay, making things scientific will actually make their work easier. You see, because if one of the roles of the scientific distance is to make sure that each person gets the right roles to do, then it means that if you are on the low level management, sometimes, the top level people, they can bully you with a lot of work. You see the thing, and it may overwhelm you at a point. Do you get it? And so you see, using this scientific method where everybody is apportioning their equal this thing, one of them, I'm just using one of them, right? You see that it helps to ease some pressure on the regular corporate victims. Do you get it? So it's very, very important, right? Very, very important. Quality advocates inspired by the scientific approach have been right all along about the importance of quality and continuous improvements, right? When it comes to the scientific approach of things, right? People people have in the times past talked about the importance of coming out with quality outputs. Okay, so the role of scientific management is to help execute that, and then you even come out with improved outputs in your service delivery, right? It helps you to bring out the best. Imagine if you are a modernized company using scientific methods and stuff, your things will be top notch, right? So this is basically what this point is talking about, right? It helps to rather prove the point of those people that who were advocating for those things, right? The operational approach fostered the development. The operational approach fostered the development of operations management, right? So there was a certain approach on the way things should be done, right, in every department of each organization. So, for instance, when it comes to the operations side of each company, they are responsible for ensuring that the day-to-day activities of each firm is accomplished or is performed. You see, so these people, they can work in all the fields. So normally the operational people, they turn out to be the the there's this term we used to call a certain group. When the CEO is not there, they are there, not the assistant CEO though. Is it the CFO or something? They are the chief operating officers of companies, right? CEO, COO also, yes, I think COO. So these people are in charge of the general operations. They ensure that the accountant is being supported to do his work. The administrator is being supported to do his or her work. Marketing team. So you see that normally these people cut across. And it is the role of these operational officers or management to ensure that all these things are done in a very orderly manner. You see, so sometimes what they do is even that they step in where workers are lacking in specific fields, and they ensure that those roles in those fields are done. So having a scientific management approach would ensure that these people are in the right place, right? And when these people are there, you have a proper, orderly, mannered company, right, or organization where everything is properly attended to and not left to the winds, right? When the workers are having issues with health and you don't have any backup plan. So these people are there. And it's as a result of the scientific management approach, management through the operational approach, right? That's how come these things are also becoming beneficial to the company, right, or the organization. Okay. So at this point, I want to open up this thing for questions, right? For questions, so that you can ask questions based on what we've done so far before we move on to the general administration theory. Okay. Are there any questions? Any questions so far? Are you understanding? Are you following? All right, so let's move on. Okay, so now that we've talked about the various importance of moving or going with scientific management, right? Flowing with a scientific management system. Let's talk about the general administration theory, because it is also, you realize that it was one of the things under scientific management that we needed to study under the diagram. Those of us who joined late, right, you can see it here. So we started off by talking about the history. We had scientific management, and now we are going to talk about what administrative theories. Okay, so let's begin with the administrative theories. All right. Okay, so see. Okay, so I'm out of the screen. So if someone raises the hand, they can alert me by unmuting themselves so that I would be aware. All right. So the general administrative theory, right, assumes all organizations require the same rational management process. So you have core management process, which remains the same regardless of the purpose of the organization, right? And then you have number two, the management process can be reduced to a set of separate functions and related principles. So what this is talking about is basically that, you see, when you are having some organization, let's say you are in a company, right? Or you are in a set an institution that you just started, you realize that there are certain aspects of the business or the organization that you would need certain things, that like basic things that you need to make it functional so that things can run, right? Basic things. So these things, they can't be handled by all of them by the top level people all the time. And so there's a need for creating, or the creation of this department that would take care of these small things, right? So these are the core things that you need to facilitate the general running of the business. You get it? So the core management process remains the same regardless the purpose of the organization. The management process can be reduced to a set of separate functions and related principles. So let's look at them, right? Some of these things, right, were brought up by different people, right? So in the administrative side, we have someone called Henry Fayol, right? We can look at him over here. We've looked at this already. Let's look at Mr. Henry Fayol. His name has been popping up in a lot of the examination questions. Right, so this is Mr. Henry Fayol. You can see he's a French mining engineer, another engineer. They are the people drafting the scientific managerial or management systems. One may think that they are business gurus, but actually engineers. All right, so Mr. Henry Fayol was a French mining engineer, mining executive, author, and director of mines who developed a general theory, right? I'm trying to load this thing with wiki. General theory of business administration that is often called Fayolism. So you see his surname, It has been turned into a word, you see. So he basically developed a theory of business administration, maintaining the day-to-day activities of the business, right? The small things, the very small things that are also very important to the running of the business, right? We are going to talk about them. So he and his colleagues developed this theory independently of scientific management, like his contemporary Frederick Winslow. So Frederick Winslow sits on top as the father of scientific management. let's put that in our minds, because they can use this to confuse us. So we have scientific management, right? That is headed by the father. The father is Frederick Winslow Taylor. And then we have Henry Fayol, who sits on top as the father of the administrative theory. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Administrative theory, I think let me just go back. Yes. So administrative, so the business administration, right? So those who want to study business administration, you'll be reading a lot about him, right? So he is talking just only on that side, and his name is Henry Fayol. So he believed that the practice of management was distinct from other organizational functions. All right, believe that the practice of management was distinct from other organizational functions. Okay, developed 14 principles of management, right, that apply to all organizational institutions, right? So this Henry Fayol, right, who is noted for this general administrative theory, right, believed that the practice of management was different from other organizational functions. So any other thing that wasn't to do with the management of the company was supposed to be different from any other thing. So he separated management from any other functions of the company. You get it? So he was credited for the administrative theories, right? His name is Henry Fayol, but he also developed 14 principles of management, right? He developed 14 principles of management. Remember that Sir Frederick developed the 4 principles of scientific management. So let's notice the difference. It's very, very important here. Okay, if you don't take care, it might slip out of your hand. But when you take notice of these things, you see that it will be very easy. As soon as you see the key words, right? Scientific management, principles of scientific management. You see 14 principles of management, right? You'll be able, or administrative theory, general administrative theory. You should know that relating to Henry Fayol, right? Max Weber is also another person who developed the theory of authority, right, based on an ideal type of organization, right? An ideal type of organization. So he emphasized rationality, predictability, impersonality, right? Technical competence. And so his was based on the authority of management, right? How they think, how they should be able to tell what is to come, right? By the fact that the figures that they may have at their disposal, right? So how they think, how they should be able to predict what will happen in the business. So as a manager, these things, right? How you should relate with people and your technical skills of the work that you are doing. How have you enlarged your knowledge on the field that you are studying, right? That you are working in, right? And your overall power or authority that you possess, right, in the field and also in the resources, which has to do with your workers and your tools and equipment. You get it? So when it comes to knowing these things, right, it is Max Weber who came about these things. So Max Weber actually developed the theory of authority. You get it? So this is the difference between Max Weber, Henry Fayol, Frederick, what's his name? Whistler Taylor. Then we also have what? Is it Frank and Lillian? Is it Gilbert, right? Gilbert. And then we also have Henry Elgant, who was also a follower together with Frank and Lillian Gilbert under the general scientific management. Please, are we getting the names very well? Because I'm doing this on purpose. You see that I'm spending a lot of time on this area because it's very, very important because the names look a lot. All right. So on this, we would like to go or delve deeper into Henry Fayol's findings, right? He published administration. So now we are delving into the administrative thing for which we are supposed to talk about, right? After scientific management. So he published administration, Industrielle et Générale in 1916. So after he published this, it was standardized and it was used, right? So he separated management from administration. Do you get it? So after he separated it, he decided to zoom in it and then talk about the administrative part of the whole thing. So in the administration, what entails it, like what is the actual thing into details, right? What are the roles involved in the administration of management? So he grouped them into these various categories, and these were 5, right? The first one was planning, right? He realized that no, as a management or as a manager, some of the roles he grouped them. You see, when it has to do with planning, knowing what to do to be able to even predict. For you to even be able to predict, right, you need to be able to plan well, right? And then he spoke about organizing, right? And then you remember he talked about how do you call it? Max Weber was talking about authority, but he didn't go into details, right? So this one, Henry Fayol spoke about command over here. So we have planning, organizing, command. Then we have coordination to be able to still link. After you have, you organize everything and you have control of everything, then now you should be able to maintain the control. And this is what we call coordination, right? To make sure that the whole thing is happening at the same time as you are monitoring, you're able to monitor all of them at the same time, or everything is able to happen simultaneously, seamlessly at the same time. You get it? And then having complete authority over the thing, over all the things that you have said. So you are aware of every aspect of the whole thing, right? So this is what he stood on to develop the 14 universal principles of management. All right. So in his 14 principles, definitely you are going to see some of these things, right? And so we have division of work, or what some of us call division of labor. Yes. So we have division of work, we have authority, discipline, unity of command, unity of direction, right? So you see that he's breaking all these things down, right? Unity of direction, subordination of individual interest to the general interest. So the 14 principles, you don't need to break everything down and be reading as someone was saying that this thing, they look so cumbersome at first glance, but there's a way. You see, this is why I'm helping with the summarized points, right? So that you'll be able to focus on certain things. There are certain words, by their meaning, you get their definitions. All you need is the technical terms to embellish it, to produce it for your exam, right? So the first one is what? Division of labor, right? The second one is authority, discipline. We are going to look at them actually one by one. Unity of command, unity of direction, subordination of individual interest to the general interest, right? And then number 7 is what? Remuneration, the pay, right? Centralization, making things happen from a top position to the bottom side so that everybody receives. You get it? When something is centralized, it means that it's coming from a convergent point of view to a more uh, um, duplicated, how do you call it, points. So it's coming, it's like you are having a light that is reflecting. You see that it's coming from a one angle to a lot of angles, right? So basically, that is the point of centralization, when you have a central command where everybody come and takes the information from. You get it? We'll talk about them, the importance, the disadvantages of all these things. We are going to talk about them. Scalar chain, right? We are going to talk about it. Order, equity, there's no time. Stability of tenure of personnel, right? Initiative, right? Then we have esprit de corps. We are going to talk about them. I'm just trying to take my time on this so that everybody gets this. Okay, so Weber's ideal bureaucracy. So we are going to explain the 14 principles on Henry Fayol's general, how do you call it, principles of management. But let's look at this first. Weber's ideal bureaucracy, right? Jobs, let me present this. All right, so we have managers who are career professionals. So we have career orientation. So we are looking at Weber's ideal bureaucracy, right? We have career orientation, where managers are career professionals, not owners of units they manage. They also provide education to their subordinates and try to upgrade them in the path that they need to take in their career, right? And we have division of labor, where each positions, everybody has their position that they occupy or the role that they perform in the organization. So jobs are broken down into small, simple routine and well-defined. So it will not be ambiguous in such a way that nobody will not know or be confused as to what to do, what exactly to do. So with the division of labor side, this is what on Weber's ideal bureaucracy, right? Authority hierarchy, right? Positions organized in a hierarchy with a clear chain of command. So you should know who is in charge of what, basically. You get it? There must be, okay, so we have the top, this is what they do, the middle, this is what they do, these people, this is what they do, and that, so on. So there must be a hierarchical, hey, Prof. I'm dropping this out. Hierarchical way of doing things, right? Sometimes some of us don't like to follow it, but it is what it is. When you want to have structure, it's difficult. Sometimes it may be seen as a way of being bureaucratic. That means that you have some things at a certain point and people don't have access. It is well. Okay, so we also have formal selection, people selected for jobs based on technical qualifications, so based on their technical qualifications. And then we have formal rules and regulations, right? Where systems of written rules and standard operating procedures, right? So there must be rules and regulations at the workplace, right? Where people would follow at all times. And that must be available, right? and these are all parts of the workers' ideal bureaucracy, right? How things should be at the workplace, the professional way. And then we have impersonality, right? Uniform application of rules and controls, not according to personalities, right? Things must be able to work with or without the person's capacity, right? Maybe if someone does something, sometimes the way you implement things at the workplace may favor a group of people, right? And disfavor another group of people. So I want to take some time and then explain the 14 principles. Oh, the time is up. Okay, so at this point, the next time we meet, we are going to start from the 14 principles of management, right, by Henry Fayol, and we are going to take them one by one, all the 14 of them. Okay, then we will link it with Weber's ideal bureaucracy, and then proceed to finish session 2. Okay, I hope that I have another session, maybe in the course of time, I think. Okay, so with that, I think I'll open the floor for questions, all right, so that we receive some questions. Other than that, if I proceed, I think it will be a bit cumbersome. If you have questions, try and ask at this point, based on what you have learned so far. And those of you who sent the questions in my DMs, I mean, it was a very laudable thing to do. You saw that you attended to, your scope on the topic was broadened. And I think I encourage that, okay? You can reach out with the questions and you see that you'll be attended to. You see, so we do also make time for that as well. And so I encourage that those people, thumbs up to you guys. You are doing so. I think you'll be able to have a broader perspective and be able to know what exact words to use during the exam. If you have a question, just raise your hand and then you ask. Other than that, we'll have, okay, Mr. Wumba Rolo, Mr. Antereba. Yes, sir. I was trying to pronounce your other name.
Hello.
Yes, sir. I'm listening, sir.
All right, please. I would like to know these principles of management, maybe in exams. If they ask about a principle, are you to state them one by one and explain, or you just list them?
Oh no.
Or there is a way we have to present it.
So you don't have to provide it systematically as it is appearing in the slides. Okay. You don't have to. It's not. There's no. So far, you realize that anything we have studied so far, it's not supposed to, like, if it's in the position of number 4, it doesn't mean that you should maintain it at number 4. What you remember, you try and write it. Okay. And another thing is that what will help you is what we are trying to do. So I want you to know the person and the background of the person. So even when you know the background of the person, you will see that you will be able to know what they contributed to the course, right? So you realize that, for instance, Lillian Gilbert, right? She was a psychologist and an engineer. So you see how they contributed. When you go back, you go through the slide or you go through this video, you would see that the contribution they made was related to their field. So everything I was trying to do, when you listen to the video, you would notice that everything was intentional, right? And so with the exam, luckily or unluckily, we are going to have a sitting with this course. Okay, we are going to have sitting. So we need to know some. You see, the reason why I'll be doing objectives with us is that with objectives, you have the right answer and you have the whole thing given to you. So the whole definition is given out and the right answer is there. So after we do it, we'll treat the whole thing the whole 40 questions. So I'll try and do 40 questions for session 1 and then 40 questions for session 2. So with that, you would know, you will also learn extra things, right, with regards to that. I don't know if you understand. So there's no need to follow that laid down. All you have to know is that, okay, this one is Henry Fayol, right? And these are his principles. Okay, Henry Fayol did some 14 principles B. You see the thing? And Frederick Whistler Taylor, he had some 4 major principles be like that. And he had some 2 followers. Just know these things. He had some 2 followers. One was they were a pair. One was called Frank. Both of them had the same name, right? Frank and Lillian Gilbert. They later came to redefine it. So later you can look at the exact thing that they came to redefine from their boss's work. And then you have some one man be his name with something Grant, L. Grant. You see that thing? So try and get the names. You see, and especially the fathers. You see, the apprentices, their names are not really important. The years that they came to publish are not really important than the fathers. You see that the fathers' years are very, very important. You see, so you see that the fathers, like for instance, Mr. Frederick Winslow, you see that if you watch the slide carefully, let's go back. If you go back, you will see, for the sake of time, you see that a year was written to his name, right? So those ones that were given in the slide, try and pay attention to them. These are some small keys. And I'll also do a summary, just like I did with the session 1, so that everybody will have a copy. And then it will summarize everything for them on what the actual thing, the content they will use to set the questions, right? So that everybody would have a copy of that. Yes. So I don't want the whole thing to be cumbersome. So I've sliced it. You see that it's about 50 slides. We've done about half of it, exactly half or so. So in our next section, we'll take the next half and then we'll try and complete it so that we'll all get it. Because the foundation, trust me, a lot of the questions are going to come from this side, right? So it's very, very important. Very, very important. All right. Thank you very much for today's session. I believe that it has been a fruitful one. If there are, Mr. John, Sir John, have you been thoroughly answered?
Yes.
All right, powerful. Is there any other question? All right, so in view of that, if there are no further questions, I think that we'll come to the end of this session. We'll call it session 2A, right? So we are going to have a session 2B the next time we meet. And this is the time we'll use half of the time to finish it, and then the beginning half to do the questions. So we'll answer session 1, 40 questions. Let's prepare ourselves and be able to partake. Have a good evening, good night, take care, bye-bye.